It's Wednesday in South Carolina. Welcome into the Touchdowns podcast presented by Harrison Williamson at Cross Country Mortgage. We have a very special guest. Obviously, it's a very special week, rivalry week versus Clemson, South Carolina. We got Coach Danny Ford on the horn, talking this game with us. We appreciate you joining, Coach.
Thank you.
For those, hey, for those that don't know, Coach Ford was a player at Alabama under Bear Bryant, and then got into the coaching ranks, and he actually won a national championship at Clemson during his time. Also spent a few years at Arkansas, coaching the head coach for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Thankfully, we weren't alive when you were coaching Clemson. I'll just say I'll say that, Coach Ford.
Y'all were not alive. God, y'all.
We didn't have that's our dad's generation that had to deal with your ass.
I hear you.
And but yeah, this is going to be fun with Coach Ford, and really we'll just get right into it, Coach Ford. We want to talk about a lot of stuff with you around the rivalry, but also talk about your come up as a football player and coach. So just starting from the beginning, what was it like being a player under Coach Bear Bryant?
Well, we were number one, when you live in Alabama and you're either an Auburn or Alabama fan, it's not in you can't change. In South Carolina you can't change either, but you can lean two ways sometimes. And down there you can't. So you grow up being one or the other. I was recruited by both schools, Auburn and Alabama, both, and I liked both of them. And really, I liked everywhere I went. Tennessee, Mississippi State. I never went to Georgia. Georgia Tech came and checked my transcript, but they didn't never call back after they checked my engineering degree here. So, but anyway, so you grow up one way or the other, and then if you go to Alabama, you go to win a national championship. Well, see that was why we went to Alabama. Plus, we had four guys that signed the year before it. When I was a junior, they were seniors, and I felt very comfortable there. And they were coming off 1966 year where they were probably the best team Coach Bryant ever had. They didn't win a national championship. I think Notre Dame and Michigan State or somebody tied or whoever it was, and they gave it to them rather than Alabama undefeated. But we went there and never even won a conference championship, which was sad. I mean, you go there to win a national championship, and then we go down to some bad years there, and not bad per se for a lot of programs, but bad for Alabama. And I mean, we were like 8-2, and then we were like 7-3, and then we were 6-5. I think back then freshmen couldn't play, so we were going downhill. But really, the reason because that happened was because of recruiting. We had played Nebraska in '66 in a bowl game before I even was out of high school, and they won the game really with no problem. And then Nebraska came and visited with Coach Bryant, and Bob Devaney was the coach at Nebraska then, and he talked about all the big kids that they had at Nebraska, and they recruited all over the country. So we started going out all over the country, and come January of that year of our my sophomore year, all those guys that we went after were five of the best linemen throughout the United States we got, but they all quit at Christmas. And I was a tight end, and then I moved to the offensive tackle. Then we had people moving all over. We had a great offensive guard, Alvin Samples out of Birmingham. He could have been another John Hanna type player. We had to play him at linebacker. and people were out of position. We had a fullback that moved to tight end and just ran out of people, and that's why recruiting is so very, very important. And then Coach Bryant, my senior year after we played, he went to the Wishbone, and then they won 100 games in 10 years. And I think that probably helped him a lot. Darrell Royal came to Tuscaloosa, and my job during the summer as a graduate assistant was mowing the grass on the football field, and in the afternoon I was the defensive tackle, teaching a quarterback how to read the offense. Either I'd step up field or I'd step down and pull or pitch. It was what he was supposed to do. So we did that all summer, and Southern Cal didn't know. Southern California beat the devil out of Alabama in 1970 in Birmingham, and then they went out there in 71 and never showed the wishbone or never told anybody about the wishbone. Scored the first three times they had the ball, hung on to win the ball game 17-14. So, he was a master at changing when he needed to change. He was mostly he hired the people that played for him because he was getting older and they knew what he wanted. I mean, not only did the players look after every play, look up in the tower to make sure he wasn't coming down to get on to somebody, but the coaches looked up too because they all had played for him too, and they were just about as nervous as we were on the practice field. But he was just a heck of a man. John Wayne, God, just tough. But I think when we were there, he was getting older and he mellowed a little bit. He had a bad recruiting year for a couple of years, lost some linemen, and we didn't replace him, and that's when we went down. But he is. I think that's one reason he hired me later on. I was a tight end, and I had to play what they call quick tackle back there. It was the weak tackle. Strong tackle was on the other side, and we flip flopped. But that was how they called us, strong and weak tackles. And I think he kind of felt sorry for me, I guess, and offered me a job a couple of years later, and that's how I got into coaching. And I know your question about how did you get in coaching? Well, Pat Dye. I was an all academic SEC player, and I was getting ready to go to my wife's high school in Etowah County, which was a good high school back then. I went to Gaston High, which was a city school. She went to the county school, and they had a great coach named Jim Glover. So I was going to go coach with him. And Pat Dye asked me what I was going to do, and I said I'm going to go be a coach, and I'm going to go to high school. And he said, well, why don't you go ask Coach Bryant to let you be a graduate assistant, and you go get your master's, because you're going to make a lot more money if you go in high school with a master's degree than if you don't have one. So I went to the PE department, and like I say, I had good grades in college because I had a good major, easy major, and at that time, and it was during the Vietnam War, and I went over there to talk to the dean, and he said, your grades aren't good enough to get into PE. I said, God, dog, what do you mean I can't get into PE? I mean, here I am, all SEC academic, and you can't get in. I can't get in PE. He said, no, everybody's got a master's is trying to get a doctorate, and everybody's got a PhD. I mean, a regular degree is trying to get a master's to stay out of the war. And that in the lottery number was what was going on back then in the Vietnam days. And if you was in school, you got an exemption, and if you were a lottery number, if it was high enough, you got an exemption. So anyway, that's how it happened. And Pat Dye got me into coaching. And Coach
Auburn time? Pat Dye?
No, Pat was a linebacker coach at Alabama.
Okay.
Wow.
I just read an article in Birmingham, and it had a picture of, if you ever seen the picture of Coach Dye and Coach Bryant at a hunting lodge, and that was in probably 81 or 2. Well, the guy that took the picture, it was one of his most famous pictures. He was just sitting there, and they asked him to leave when Coach Bryant and Coach Dye could have. They had just played their first game against each other. And Coach Bryant loved Pat Dye because they'd talk about cotton picking and hoeing cotton and all this in meetings, and Pat would sit there and talk about that stuff because he was a farmer too. And Coach Bryant was raised in Arkansas back by himself in the country up there. So he knew about farming. But the guy took a picture of it. Well, he just died. He just died. They just posted that he just died. And that was his most famous picture of Coach Bryant and Pat Dye sitting there at the table eating rabbit stew and talking football.
Love that. Yeah, because I didn't realize. I knew Pat Dye had coached at Auburn. I didn't realize he came up under Bear Bryant.
Well, he didn't. The story with Coach Bryant and Pat was that Pat Dye was in service, playing service ball. And he was I believe, in the Army, and I don't know if it's Fort Benning or wherever it was, but Coach Bryant was a speaker at their awards or whatever. And the story went that that Pat Dye just had a gleam in his eye, and Coach Bryant saw the gleam in his eye, and said he wanted to hire him as his linebacker coach, and he never coached him down. And that was why Coach Bryant was so good. He just had the gift. He could just look at you and say, well, when he hired me, he said, I'm going to hire a young coach, and you can have it if you want it. And he'd already got me a job at Eastern Kentucky. And I took $1,000 cut in pay to stay at Alabama. I didn't know any better at the time. I thought I got
a good decision, though, in hindsight.
Yeah.
I think it worked out.
It worked out good, yeah. No, I never thought about what coaching for Coach Bryant meant when I was 22, 3, 4 years old,
Right.
It never hit me to say, well, I never thought, I didn't even know they was going to give me an automobile. I was driving a 1966 push-button Dodge, lime green. My daddy bought it. It would barely make it to class and back. I rode a bicycle to Tuscaloosa High School from our apartment. My wife took the car to the bank to work, and when I did my graduate teaching, I was on a bicycle on 15th Street going up to the high school. Things like that, people don't remember, and not that it was hard. Riding a bicycle wasn't hard, but it was a long way, and I don't know how many guys would do it now to get in coaching or get a master's degree. But I'm sure that there's a lot of people make sacrifices besides anybody want to go and coaching.
Yeah. Coach, my question for you, the game is constantly evolving, and the biggest change to college football in the past few years has been the emergence of the transfer portal and NIL. And a lot of coaches have approached it in different ways. Coach Sweeney has kind of been the outlier in that he hasn't really used the transfer portal as much as other programs have. But many coaches have lamented the ability to build their team and have consistency, because you have players wanting to leave, or you're having to supplement your roster each year in the off season. I know that the portal and NIL didn't exist when you were a coach.
No.
But what was your strategy for managing egos in the locker room? Because I'm sure that existed back then as well.
Well, we had the red shirt rule where we could red shirt. They could play as a freshman. But what we told every guy that we recruited is that, number one, if we're lucky enough for you to play as a freshman, you overdone your scholarship. You well deserved it. If you played as a sophomore, you well deserved your scholarship, because that means we got 3 years of football out of you. Now, if you got to play, if you stay, you've got to contribute for 2 years. And if you do that, you go with the numbers. Our numbers were 105 and then 95 back. That's a drop. in years coming. But if you do that, you can do what Coach Sweeney wants to do. You can build your program, you know. But you can't miss on them. If you miss and you got a bunch of ones instead of twos and some threes and fours, then you're in bad shape because you don't have the depth and the number of players. If you just get in 1 year, that means you spent counting the red shirt here. You've spent 4 years of coaching those guys to get 1 year out of it. Impossible to make it work number wise. So we always felt like if you played 2 years, you deserved your scholarship. If you didn't, we missed you, or you're not giving us what we need on the practice field to play, or we made a mistake in recruiting you. I mean, basically that's. And you say, now they can go with the NIL and maybe overcome that. But if you missed on those already, how come you won't miss on the NIL? Who's to say? And the two kids, I don't know them, so I shouldn't comment on them, but I will say this. The guy from Purdue who transferred in at Clemson is a pretty good player.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a difference maker? You look at his stats. Is a wide receiver? Is he a difference maker from Missouri or small college out in Missouri? Is he a difference maker? You make your own opinion. But if you go and do the NIL, if you miss those guys, you give them a lot of money and you still ain't getting what you've been getting as building a pro. So he can do what he wants to do, but he's got to be right.
Right.
I mean, that's the number one thing. So, and nothing against the kids any of them. I think all of them, the guys from South Carolina, the guys from Clemson, and the transfers in, the guys that signed scholarship, I'm all for them, all of them. I just want them to do the very best they can do and be good citizens. And I think that's what everybody wants. I think South Carolina wants their players to be that way, and I think Clemson wants their players. But, if you miss, it's your fault. But you can't afford to say they're here forever if they're not productive and build your program without NIL. Now, if you're good at picking NIL people, then that's different, But there's a bunch of kids that transfer every year that can't play.
Right.
Well, and it's very interesting too, Coach, because you look at a program like Florida State and Mike Norvell, and they had two seasons.
A bunch, right?
2 seasons ago, they go undefeated, and so they had this mindset of, I'm going to hit the transfer portal every year, and that's how I'm going to win. And it worked 1 year in 2023. The last 2 years, it hadn't. And so you got to have the balance as a coach of being able to build through high school recruiting, and then you almost have to just fill gaps in the transfer portal. And
when we were coaching, the high school kid was their lifeblood. You worked hard at recruiting. You worked hard trying to get the high school coaches to like you. You went to every clinic. You had the coaches come to your clinics. I mean, you worked hard at it. Now, maybe too many hands in the pot now. But you got people watching film that go on the road, and film can tell you a story. They say film don't lie, but film can tell you a story. You can think that kid looks pretty good on film, but he may not be playing against anybody. Any person that's any good. Now you get a kid that's playing against a good football team, and when they started making these films and these recruiting films up where you pick out certain plays, well, naturally they ain't gonna send a bad play. I mean, you're not gonna send a bad play on the highlight film. So, I'm not a big fan of highlight films. I'm a big fan of evaluation in person, of get them in your football camp, and watching game film. all the way through, not just highlights. Highlights, everybody can make a highlight film.
No, that's fair. Do you feel like just there's a stark contrast just to what you spoke about with recruiting, but how do you feel about the structure of college football now with the playoff compared to back in the day when it was
Well, I mean,
bowl
it
games and
makes
chosen by the riders and all that?
right. It makes when you take the automatic champion and you're the best team in the conference, it makes your path easier to get to the playoff and win a national championship than the old ways. Because if you in the old ways, you got to go undefeated or you got to go a long way, and you got to stay in the top 2 or 3 to the picks are done, and then you one or two teams.
Right.
Now you one of 12, right, or 10 or whatever it is. So I think it's easier now, but it in a sense it's still harder because you got to play more games, and it's longer. The season is longer, so I think there's probably pros and cons on both ends, but I thought it was always harder when it was two teams. I mean, you screw up early in the year, you're gone. It ain't we're gonna work our way and win the conference championship.
Not the Notre Dame situation this season where they lost
Oh
their
yeah,
first 2 games of the year and now they're gonna sneak in it or so it
they
seems
will
like.
probably they'll have a shot. Plus they're Notre Dame, and they will
Right.
make a commitment. They won't make a commitment on joining the conference, which is wrong in my opinion. They're treated probably a little bit different than all the other universities that play college football, and they shouldn't be treated any different. I mean, I think when you said earlier about the NIL and if when California sued the NCAA several years ago, and they sued them for NIL, and they said if you got a player, he deserves to be paid. Well, back then, if the NCAA would have done their job and said, well, we're going to give every scholarship player, men, women, everybody, and all the people that are on scholarship, we're going to give them, say, I'm going to do the math, so I'm going to do it easy. Say we're going to give them $400 a month, and you got 300 scholarship people. Well, that's still cheaper than having a $20 million budget. You see what I'm saying? So, and if they had done that, they would have paid those guys, but it all been paid the same. And I think Baylor, no, it was Texas Tech, I believe.
Yes.
Texas Tech came in there their first year, and they paid everybody. They paid 110 players the same amount of money, even with a walk-on, and I think it was $55,000 for everybody. So that takes your locker room problem out of the way.
Okay.
You got a $2 million quarterback here, and you got a $35,000 center.
Right.
And you can say what you want to, but this old center working his butt off too, and this is quarterback. This guy's making chump change, and this guy's making millions of dollars.
Right.
That don't work. I mean, it doesn't work. I mean, I think the NIL would work better, and it's not going to work. It can't continue to work. It will not. Football can't continue to work on the structure it's on right now, in my opinion. I may not live to see it, but 10 years from now, they won't be football unless they change. But they come in there and make some rules that everybody gets this amount of money, all student athletes on campus, rowing, horseshoe pitching, anything that you're on scholarship for, you deserve some money. And if you budget it out, you're still going to pay less than you are right now. You can pay a lot of dang kids some money with $20 million. And if you got 300 scholarships, just be equal and be fair with it. Then nobody, the girls basketball players make just as much as the quarterback. Well, the quarterback probably deserves more, but you want to be equal. and everybody, there's no jealousies. There's no.
Right.
I think probably the biggest part of NIL right now, and the teams that have problems with handling and winning when they're supposed to win, is some of the kids are unhappy in the locker room, and I know I would be. You know, if I'm out there and I'm an offensive tackle, I'm getting busted my butt every day and get the heck beat out of me, and I'm winning some battle but losing some battle, and just this quarterback, you know, or running back or whoever it is, a specialty type players getting all this money, you know, that wouldn't sit real great with me, and probably most people in the country.
Well, and I think the I blame the NCAA too, because they were so resistant to pay the players that they created this just wild, wild west of, because name, image, and likeness in what it should mean is I'm Beck Dugas and I'm selling jerseys and I should get paid because the people are buying the jersey because of my, you know, I bought a number 7 jersey because Jadeveon Clowney wore number 7,
right?
Not because of anything else. So that's where name, image, and likeness should have been structured around these players getting benefits off of. But the NCAA was so resistant. Oh, these are student athletes; they don't deserve to get paid. And then it just opened up this whole.
Well, I never have been a fan of NCAA because I think they always played favoritisms. If you was on a board or if you were on a committee as a football coach, you probably got some better opportunities than somebody that wasn't on the board. And I believe it was quite a lot of politics, which I'm not a politician type person. I don't think they're any better than I am. You know, I think I'm just as good as they are, and I just don't believe in kissing somebody's rear end to get a favor. You know, I don't believe in that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, we totally, and we definitely wanted to get your opinion on these landscape type of questions, and we appreciate you chiming in on that. But we are here for rivalry week, and obviously as a national champion winning coach at Clemson, we're getting the other side, I guess you could say, in this. But I want to ask you some questions, you know, about this game in particular and the rivalry, and you know, kicking things off.
Right.
What does this rivalry mean to you specifically? What do you think it means in the state, and maybe since you are from the state of Alabama, maybe if you could compare it to Alabama?
Well, sure. Well, you know, I told somebody earlier about back when I was coaching about the rivalry. There was a bank in Anderson, South Carolina that, and I don't remember the name of the bank, but if you won the game, they put your flag on top of the bank for a year. And if you lost, you didn't see your name. And every time you drove to Anderson and went by there, you know that flag's up there. And it just eats away with you every day. And I told the guy yesterday, I'm sorry. That's my son checking on me. But I told the guy yesterday, the team that wins, they ought to put a billboard every way in how you can get to South Carolina through 95 and 95 through 85, you know, coming into the state, and especially going downtown Columbia or going down 123 in Clemson.
Right.
And you ought to have a billboard up there that with a score on it of who won the game. And it ought to rub you raw every day you ride by there.
You might have just given us.
Oh, I gave the Carolina boy. I told him. I said, you ought to go and put it. I said, if y'all win, you ought to put one right down there in the Clemson and rub it in. I said, I hated that flag being on the top of that bank when we got beat. You know, and you had to look at it and just think about all those kids that drive by. Best recruiting deal you can have.
Right.
I mean, the cheapest recruiting. I don't know what a billboard costs, but and he said, well, if somebody threw it. I said, no, just put another one up. Somebody tears it down. It ain't that big a deal, but you put, when you win a national championship or whatever, you come across Georgia line, it says, 1985, say national championships at Clemson, and then there's a big sign, highway sign, and you come into South Carolina, if they win, you put the score up there, and coming into Clemson, and they have to live with it for a year. It'll make it a lot more interesting, I guarantee you, because these players will have to live with it, and more so the coaches. The players come and go, but the coaches, most of the time, they stay around for 2 or 3 or 4 years or 5 years, whatever. And it would be interesting to see that happen. And I know Clemson's got the people to do it. I know South Carolina's got the people to do it. But I think that would add a little bit to the flavor of it. They say there is a place here in the upstate where they have all the flags, and when whoever wins, their flag's at full mast, and whoever loses is half mast.
Yeah.
So, but nobody knows that story much because it's not advertised a lot. But it would be it'd be interesting. But what it is a very important game. It's a very important game because you got people who die and live with that football game. You got families that split with the football game. You got husbands and wives. You got kids children that some like one team, some like another team. So it's important, and it's a lot of pressure on you to try to win that football game at the end of the year because you don't want to go through. You can't rectify losing. You got to live with it for 9 months, and all you go on the IPTAY trail or you go on the Gamecock circuit raising money or scholarships and talk to your people and the first question they're going to ask you if you get beat, what happened?
Right.
And are you going to ever win that game? Or we're going to have to get rid of you and get another one to start winning that game. That game's important. And there is a lot of pressure on it. But I think it's one of the best rivalries. Our problem is our state's so small. High school wise, used to, we had 100, when I was coaching, about 122 high schools. I don't know how many they got now, but gee whiz, you could go to Philadelphia and hit that many going around the Beltway,
Right.
It's just population. And the same thing with scholarships and population wise now. The more schools you have playing, the better you should be because you got more kids to pick from, when you recruit. So if you got an in-state deal, I think probably the most we ever had in South Carolina during our coaching time, we figured it was probably, 15 prospects. That's pushing it. Division I players. And South Carolina's going to get so many. Clemson's going to get so many just by how they were raised. And then the winner of that game is going to pick up an extra few.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk about, well, you don't want to go to that other school. They can't win.
Beat us.
Yeah, they can't beat us. We're the best school in the state. So and that's changed too. I saw where right after Spurrier was there, it became very popular for South Carolina to be the in-state school to go to for these high school kids. I'm not talking about athletics. I'm talking about the high school kids choosing where to go to school, and because they were winning, they were getting recognition. It was a fun place to go. They had great support, great education. Both schools are great education, and then it turned where Clemson started winning, and Clemson became the popular school. Not necessary for the athlete, but for the population of going to college. And how that affects you, it does help recruiting because you got a buddy that you grew up with, and I want to go to school with him. You see, even though he didn't play football, there's always just like a bulletin board. I'm not bulletin board, but the big poster board you put in if you win the football game in front of somebody's driveway. You read that every day. That helps recruit, and that's cheap. That's cheap. That's cheap for recruiting money spent. I mean, because they're gonna come and visit. Kids from everywhere come visit your school. So I don't know. I just got some different ideas now that I think the NIL, you got to do it, but you can't be wrong. I mean, if you're gonna go get somebody from another school and you watch them play in college football, they got to be a difference maker to come to your program, in my opinion. If you don't, you don't need them. If they're gonna be 50% players, play half the time, somebody else gonna play half the time. Well, how'd you help yourself? You know. So I think you got to be a really good evaluator because what's gonna make these fans more mad. That's not a good way to put it, or make it matter. Is you go and you say, "Well, I'm going out to get this player from X college, and he was a really good player at their school. He's going to come in here and change our whole fortune, and he don't do what you think."
You're right, because the fans are paying for the players now.
Hey,
So it's the fans have every right now.
Coach,
that's why I don't feel bad about criticizing these players as much as I used to. Used to, it would be my fault as a coach. My fault. Now, if I'm having to give you money and you come and play, and I'm giving you a lot of money that a lot of people in South Carolina. Somebody asked me what's the most money I made in South Carolina. I can't even remember, but I was embarrassed every time they told how much money I was making because the average salary back then was about $18,000 to $20,000 a year for people that working in the mills and stuff. And it embarrassed me that I was doing something I love to do and making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, whatever it was, and they're making $20,000. That's bad. I think that's got to come under control too. You might have a certain amount of money that you're gonna have to pay a coach, but there's not a 5-year deal anymore. Used to you say, well, you got to give the coach 5 years to build his program. Well, now you ain't trying to build a kid with a high school program. You can go out and buy one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that ought to be a 3-year contract now.
Yeah,
it's a 5-year contract. Then you're not paying $50 billion to fire somebody.
right.
But that's that's my opinion.
Coach, you just spoke about how important the game, the Clemson-Carolina game is. Are there any players that used to give you fits when you were at Clemson, just in preparation for, kept you up late at night in terms of players you had to play against from South Carolina?
Well, they. I think we had more trouble with, and I remember Pat Dye telling me when Joe Morrison came to South Carolina, and he said, their defense coordinator, he's I can't remember the word I want to say, unorthodox. He don't do anything that you're supposed to do. He almost hit 2 people through a gap. And I hired him at Arkansas one time, and he helped us win the division championship. But he had to do it his way, and he didn't practice like I wanted him to be practiced, but he worked them a certain way. And he told me when he came, he said, "I got to do it this way, or I'm not coming." And we had to win some football games, so I said, "Okay, do it your way." And I had Joe Lee, and then I had Jim Washburn, and I had Mike Bender. I had several people from the University of South Carolina because when we played Coach Morrison, that was our hardest thing to get used to the first year. They came in and did what they were doing. That wasn't the way you're supposed to do things. And then they got it going a little bit, black magic. If it ain't swaying, we ain't playing, all this stuff. And all these pretty girls from South Carolina wearing all black, and, Marlboro Man and all this kind of thing. It gets under your nerves a little bit, and I always that, and then they treated us kind of ugly down there in Columbia one day. Got after our quarterback really well. We didn't play well, and so you remember those kind of things. Now, as far as they've had some good players at South Carolina, really some really good players, and I really think going into the SEC has made them a better football team, a tougher football team. But they can't. They like Arkansas. When I was at Arkansas, when I went to Arkansas, we didn't have enough SEC players to compete with our schedule. And scheduling is probably the second most important part about winning a football game. The players is first, but the schedule. When you got teams, who you got, how much rest you had in between. Well, we swapped one time. We was at Arkansas, and we was on the rotate schedule in the SEC, and we had Kentucky, and they were about like us, and we picked up Vanderbilt. Well, the next year we swapped them for Florida. That wasn't a good deal. we would rather stay with Vanderbilt or Kentucky, but they stuck it down there playing Florida, and we were going to get ready to play. We played them in the championship, and we got our running back hurt. We played with them for about a half, and they ended up winning the game pretty good. So we're going to go down there next year and kick off and beat them in the opening game. They run the opening kickoff back, and it's over. And then we're downhill from then on. And then we got LSU coming up. We got Ole Miss coming up. We got Alabama coming up. We got Tennessee coming up. We got Auburn coming up. And we ain't got enough players to play that schedule. So, I mean, it's helped a little bit to be in the SEC, but still, again, where your population's sitting right there, it's kind of like when I went to Virginia Tech one time, and they didn't have spring football practice. And the high school association in Virginia said, we want all these kids to play different sports. And there was nothing wrong with that. But when you stop and think about it, 4 weeks of spring practice is an extra year of football. So you develop more good players. Your techniques are better. You have longer to coach them. And every other state had spring ball we was playing, high school ball. But our state didn't in Virginia at that time. I don't know what they do now. I don't keep up with it like I used to, but there's a lot of difference, and it's never going to be equal. South Carolina, there's some good jobs and there's some hard jobs, and it's not fair at some of the coaches having to do what they do because it's not equal. But you either got to do some kind of something like Marson did, Joe Marson. And I really liked Joe Marson when we played against him. And he was always nice to us, and we were nice to him. But he was a good football coach, and he had it going on. Or you got to do like Spur, you got to be able to throw the ball, or you got to be like Lane Kiffin, score a lot of points, or you got to be like Alabama, who just solid people, or like Texas A&M with great players, because no way that South Carolina's got the depth that A&M's got. In the type of athlete that they got,
right.
And they played the heck out of them, but that was mental approach to the football game too. That was they woke up the second half, but the first half A&M didn't come to play. So that's another thing you got to worry about, the mental approach of football to these players. That's very important. That's the third most important part of football.
Yeah, to that point, what are your thoughts on Coach Beamer at South Carolina?
Well, I know his father well because I was at Virginia Tech and some of the coaches they had there, and he played under Coach Mosley, who was AD when I went to Virginia Tech as an assistant coach, and he was an Alabama guy. But Coach Beamer at Virginia Tech, Coach Beamer I'm talking about, they gave him more time to win than anybody would have thought possible. And I remember one year we were playing them, and they had a offensive center, and we played them early in the year, and had an offensive center that on a run down, he put two hands down, one hand down with the ball in the other hand, and in a pass play he had his hand on his knee, just because it helped him in his technique stuff. But it also told us when they were going to run the ball, when they were going to throw the ball. And I remember we won the football game against them, and I told Frank after the game, your center's giving away every play. We know what you're doing. We may not stop you, but we know it's a run or pass, and that benefits us as a defensive team. So, and he appreciated it very much, and he was in need of getting better, as a program. Well, they did. And later they got really good, and it was a great fit for them. Now, patience now is not a good word for a college coach, and it shouldn't be for the amount of money they pay these coaches.
Right.
If you're supporting a football program and they're making more in a year than you're going to probably make in half of your lifetime, or maybe in your whole lifetime, and you got reason to gripe, just like you have more so with other players. Not gripe, but complain, state your opinion, whatever you want to do. Right. And I'm not sure. I mean, I think Coach Beamer. I think he needs to do like Clemson. He needs to win. That's why it's an important game for both of them.
Yep.
They both need to win. Both of them need to win. Clemson doesn't need to go down there and get beat by South Carolina, and then go through the IPTAY circuit this fall or this summer or this winter, and the Gamecock Club ain't gonna be very receptive if Coach Beamer doesn't beat Clemson. So somebody, I looked back at our record at South Carolina. I read an article the other day, and I forgot we tied one in the year. You can't tie no more. Somebody's going to have to win the football game now. And used to, we did have one tie against Coach Morrison when they came up to Clemson one time. I think it was 20-20 or 21-21 or something like that. So anyway, it's a lot of pressure on them. Well, you just got to win for the amount of money they're paying you. And somebody told me, somebody asked me, well, you hate it for the families in there. Well, I hate it for a guy that don't sell no cars.
Right.
Or he's selling insurance. He ain't selling no insurance.
Right.
And you got to sell insurance. Or you got a business and your business is failing.
Right.
I feel sorry for them too. But they gotta compete. They gotta win, just like a coach has got to win, and they gotta be a breadwinner or whatever you want to call it. They gotta bring something to the table. You can't nothing in life. And I like when they start talking about what football and life means. It's real simple. You better win. There's no place for a loser. There's no place for a loser in life. There's no place for a loser in football.
Couldn't agree more, Coach. Well, with that being said, do you have a prediction for this year?
Yes, I do. I surely do.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, I'm convinced that neither team is good enough to win against the other. I'm as serious as I can be. I don't think Clemson's any better than South Carolina, and I don't think South Carolina's any better than Clemson. So if that's the situation, neither one of them is good enough to win. Somebody's going to have to give it to the other team, and that comes down to personnel. Or who's going to turn the football over? Who's going to miss a tackle? Who's going to miss assignment? Who's going to fumble football? Who's going to throw an interception? Who's going to have a bad snap? It's a mistake that'll probably win the football game because they're so even. You know,
Right.
I think the schedule of South Carolina makes South Carolina probably a little favorite because they play a little tougher schedule and teams. But I think the mental approach to football is probably more so on Clemson's favor because they're coming in more positive. They got a bowl game made, you know. And if I was South Carolina, I'd do my best to spoil uh, uh, Clemson's. I mean, if I was Clemson, I'd do my best to make sure they don't even get a bowl game. You
Right.
know, I'd keep them down as long as I could because I got to recruit against them every year.
Right.
Yeah, and if I was South Carolina, I'd do everything I could win this football game to help me recruit the state of South Carolina and get the best players because both coaches are good guys, good players. I mean, good coaches. No football. I don't doubt any of that. Uh, the toughness part on both of them, I don't know. I don't know how tough you can be nowadays because of the practice limitations. You know, they have so many hours on the field and stuff like that. Uh, but uh, but it's just going to be a game where not many times in this game does the worst team win. Uh, a few times. I mean, and George Rogers in '80, they were a better football team than we were. But for some reason, they threw two interceptions. If they gave the ball, and George is a friend of mine, and I wouldn't brag on him, but if they gave him the ball 40 times, they could have named a score. We couldn't have stopped, you know. But they wanted to throw the ball, you know? So they made a mistake, whether it was coaching or play calling or a bad choice by the quarterback, whatever it was. They made a mistake, and whoever wins this ball game will probably somebody make a mistake because they're just too evenly matched type team. And I told somebody this before the season. Hardly ever have I ever remembered the state of South Carolina having two great quarterbacks the same year. Well, they came into this year, both of them been Heisman Trophy candidates. No way. So you got the guy from South Carolina who's a good player from Florence. And I'm thinking, well, he may have a sophomore slump. You know, he may be the one that plays bad. And then you got the guy at Clemson who had a good year last year, but he hadn't had really a bad year yet. So he may be the one, you know, but not both of them. You know, no way that I can't ever remember that both teams had Heisman Trophy quarterback. And both of them were overrated before the team started. So that's where they are now. Then both of them have a disappointing year. Maybe it's going, you know, if you think a bowl game is good enough, I don't think it is at Clemson to barely qualify for a bowl game. And I think not going to a bowl game in South Carolina is good enough for South Carolina. So both teams have really, really need this football game in the worst kind of way. And I really think either one of them is flip of a coin. I read early that one of them was favored by 2.5 and one of them was turned around and they were favored. And, you know, it don't matter if your home field ought to be worth 7 points. You see, so I mean, you know, who knows? But y'all guys got a lot of time to talk about it. It's not even Turkey Day yet, you know.
Yes, sir.
And so y'all got. It should be. I just wonder how much the people are going to be involved in it. You know, I think a good start is essential for South Carolina to keep the fans. You know, nothing's more disheartening than playing at home and getting your butt beat. Because people start leaving, your fans get down, they get down on you. Your players turn around, they see everybody walking out of the stadium. And I'm not just talking about South Carolina, I'm talking about either stadium. You know, right. It's very, very important to me that both teams play really hard. I hope it's a great game. I hope it's a fourth quarter game. I hope everybody's excited about it, and I hope the best prepared team wins football game.
Well, that's where we disagree, Coach. I hope we whoop them. I hope the fans that are
Yeah,
leaving wearing orange.
Y'all, oh, you wearing orange?
I said I hope the fans that are leaving early are wearing orange.
Oh, I thought I know. I know.
Never wear orange.
I know Douglas is a Gamecock, but I thought you was going to be a Clemson guy. So y'all are Gamecock station, though.
Absolutely, we're both Gamecocks.
All day, every day, man.
Well,
all day, every day, Coach.
If you're if you're 100%er, that's great. I salute you for having that kind of loyalty to your university and your football team. And that's what you need. I mean, I don't think there's all these Johnny Come Lately fans are as dedicated as they used to be. I mean, they made some.
Yeah, the upstate was a lot more orange from 2015 to 2020 than it has been recently, Coach.
Oh man, there were people jumping off bridges up here in Clemson back them years. It was rough, but we'll see.
It's going to be a great game.
Thank you for coming on, Coach.
Yeah, I hope y'all guys have success. I really hope your what do you call this, a podcast? Is that what you call it? Whatever it is, I hope y'all have success with it.
We're gonna have you back on.
I hope they let y'all come back next year. You know,
oh yeah, we're gonna have you back on.
I could get rid of y'all too if y'all don't win.
Hopefully by next year we can pay you.
No. I'm just hoping I'm here next year, boys. So y'all take care.
Yes, sir. Happy Thanksgiving.
We done?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Enjoyed it, guys.
Yes, sir.
Good night.
All right, that was Coach Ford. Appreciate him coming on, and he's obviously the guy played for Bear Bryant and coached himself and won a national championship. Been around a lot of different places, knows a lot of different people in this amazing sport that we call college football. So it's great to hear his perspective, even though it's from a Clemson Tiger perspective. But Thomas, it's rivalry week. I mean, obviously we were talking to Coach Ford, and he said some interesting things. And one of the things that stood out to me is definitely a fast start. I think if you look 2022, Spencer throws the picks. I mean, we're down 14-0 before I even sat down in my seat in the stadium with the pick six, and we end up coming back and winning that game, but we dug ourselves in a hole. Turn around 2023, it's like, all right, Gamecocks, let's not do what we did last year and bury ourselves. We throw the behind the line fumble, scoop and score on the first fucking play of the game. Clemson doesn't even score a offensive touchdown the whole game, and they still managed to beat us. And that play proved to be pivotal in the result. Last year, we come out and Lenoris breaks the amazing run, 40 yards. He broke like 8 tackles on the play, and it's like, okay, finally, let's go up 7-0 and finally be playing from ahead. We fumble it once we get down in the red zone. So the first quarter hasn't been kind to us. And obviously, even looking back to Beamer's first year when we got goose egged, I mean, we didn't obviously come out and play well at all in the first quarter. So a fast start is key in this game, not just for the crowd, but I just think for the momentum of the team. I've talked about it. This team is not meant to play from behind, and it might be different under Coach Fury than with Shula, but this team was not built to play from behind, just from an offensive line perspective, just from being able to trust Lenoris to sit in the pocket, make reads, make the intermediate throws. I think we need to get ahead in this game, and then I think we can grind them. I don't know that I have a ton of confidence that our offense is going to wow us. I think we can move the ball. I think we're going to feature Lenoris a ton in the running game. And if he runs hard, I think we can move the chains. I think we can hit some big plays. But consistency from this offense is not something we've gotten all year, so I'm not going to expect it in the last week of the season. But I do believe our defense is the differentiator. I don't expect them to be able to do much on us. Cade, he did beat us with his legs a good amount last year. He had 2 rushing touchdowns to match Lenoris. He didn't have as much yardage, but I mean, I think he popped off 60 or 70 yards on about 10 runs, and it seemed like every time he ran, it was for a first down or a touchdown. So we have to be able to contain him and not let him beat us with his legs, make him beat us with his arm. And like I said, on Wednesday's episode, I like our matchup, in the secondary with their receivers. I love our D line against their O line. So let's go. I'm feeling good about this game, man. I'm feeling better and better as the week goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, kind of taking a peek back at last year, one thing I thought that they did really well to neutralize our pass rush was they got the ball out quick, until the end of the game when Dylan got that pressure on Cade that forced the game winning interception by Demetrius Knight. We had not really been able to affect the passing game with sacks, and part of the reason was it was just out. And I think that was by design, and I do give Clemson's offensive staff credit for just kind of acknowledging that, they didn't want to sit back there and try and block us last year. So the best thing to do was just to get the ball out quick. I'll be curious to see what their game plan is for this year coming in, because again, I think that, we definitely have the advantage when it comes to their offensive line versus our defensive line. I'm pretty confident as well that we're going to be able to stop them. I don't think that they're going to be able to move the ball really well on us or score. But again, our offense, while it probably had its best game of the year last week against Coastal, that's lesser competition, and we did a couple things better against A&M the week before in the first half, but then in the second half we score no points. So yeah, the main reason that I'm not coming into this with a ton of confidence expecting us to blow them out is just because I don't know that our offense has the capability of blowing anybody out. Their defense, while it hasn't performed in the way that it was billed preseason, they still have talented players that can make plays if we allow them to. But yeah, I think that Coach Ford's point that there isn't really a clear edge on a team just being clearly better, and it's going to be the team that plays cleaner and makes fewer mistakes. I think there's a lot of truth to that. But I think that because of that, the fact that we're playing at home, that really benefits us. And to your point, if we're able to start fast, or just at the very least start clean and not, give the momentum away early on, the crowd should get behind us, and hopefully that will kind of be something that pushes the tide in our favor. But I'm really excited for this game. If we win, it goes a long way to just kind of making the pill that was this season easier to swallow. Donati has already come out and stated that Beamer is going to be the coach next year, and I think the plan from internally is to win this game and just immediately hammer the recruiting trail and the portal, preparing for next year. We have a ton of high school kids visiting for this game. So I think the strategy is, get this win and be ready to do everything that we thought we had coming this year, next year.
Yeah, huge. It's a huge recruiting weekend. Guys are all over. A lot of guys on social media talking about coming to the game. This matchup, I mean, it's always one thing I feel about this matchup is, and actually, Dabo was saying it in his press conference. A lot of times, this matchup just straight up comes down to turnover margin. Typically, if you look at the history of this matchup, typically the team that wins the turnover margin wins the game. And now last year was the outlier. Clemson, had 2 turnovers. We had 3, and we found a way to win. But that is one thing. I mean, Clayton White. I've bemoaned that we've been so good this year on defense, and but when we have to get a stop, we can't. Like it's one of those things where, like the Alabama game, we're up 7 in the fourth quarter, and we can't get off the field, we can't get a stop. But this team is leading the SEC in takeaways. I think we can go make some plays on defense, and that's going to be key. I mean, to Coach Ford's point, yeah, if you're looking, I personally think that we're better as a team, but he's probably looking at it less biased than I am, and if you really dissect it, both of these teams are pretty equal. There's not really, they have talent on defense, they have some playmakers on offense. We have the same, and like their offensive line isn't great, neither is ours. Like, so you do have a matchup of two, two similar teams, and so typically that's what it's going to come to. This rivalry, even when we were on the 5-game winning streak, I always felt like those teams, those matchups were pretty even. I mean, once we got into 2014, I still thought we were going to win that game. They beat the shit out of us. But from 2015, Sean Elliott interim year throughout the Muschamp era, I never walked into the stadium thinking we were going to beat Clemson. I actually it sucked, but it was refreshing at the same time because I was just like, oh shit, like I got no expectations. They're one of the best teams in the country, and we suck. Like, let's just go get an upset. But like, there wasn't that feeling of like, oh shit, like we're gonna win this game. Like, and so I'm glad that just even in a season where we're 4-7, I'm glad to have that feeling going into this game that we can win and we should win, because that's what makes it fun. I think those years under Muschamp sucked because it was just like you can't talk shit. You don't really want to talk shit leading up to the game. After the game, it's just kind of like, yeah, y'all whooped our ass again. We didn't. What else did you expect? So I think since Beamer's taken over, it's gotten a little bit of juice back in the rivalry, and obviously Beamer's 2-2. The game in 2021 was ass, but the last 3 years have been competitive at least. I think both games in Williams-Rice have sucked under Beamer. At least in 2023, we had a chance to win going down the stretch. But I'm just glad there's juice back in this rivalry, even though it's funny to say that when we're 4-7 and they're 6-5, but there's juice back in it, and I think there has been since Beamer got here, and I'll keep harping on it. Like, that is the difference. When people put Beamer and Muschamp side by side, similar records. There goes my flag. Similar records, similar SEC records, similar overall records. But Beamer with a win on Saturday is 3-2 against Clemson, and I'm telling you, that goes a long way. That goes a long way. it's just about again, just about both teams believing they can and should win, and I think I think that's how it should be all the time. But what are your other thoughts on this game, Thomas?
Yeah, so I think this might be the first time we've been favored since 2013. I know that, we have not beat them in Columbia since 2013, but I doubt that we were favorites in either of the games that we beat them in Clemson. So yeah, I think that it has a lot more to do with Clemson kind of regressing rather than us getting that much better. But we are certainly closer to them from a roster standpoint than we were in the Muschamp era, and I think that's reflected in the point spread. But yeah, I mean, going into this game, every single year that I've been born, I've always wanted to win, obviously, and I always find a way to convince myself that there's somehow a chance that we can. It is very refreshing for that to be a more logical and sane expectation. And again, that has a lot more to do with Clemson being not quite as good in recent years than they were at their peak, than us necessarily being that much better. But however you want to slice it, we have comparable rosters now. And, I hope that they continue to regress and we continue to climb. And I would love for it to get back to the point to where we're stringing multiple wins against them together. And I would love to get to the point to where they're in the position that we were during that run, where we're coming into the game with the much more talented team and they're just kind of beside themselves, like, because they don't know how they're going to beat us. I will never get tired of beating them. I don't care how much success we have outside of that game. We could beat them 10 years in a row and be in the playoffs every single year, and they can be as bad as, like, it doesn't, nothing will ever be as satisfying for me as beating them. And people might say that I'm putting too much stock into this game, but I just disagree. Like, that's what a rivalry is. That's what makes college football special to me. And we grew up in Greenville. No one heard about us losing to them more than we did. And I don't care what rivalry you're a part of. Like, I had buddies in college that are Commanders fans trying to tell me that they hate Cowboys more than I hate Clemson fans. And I was like, how many Cowboys fans did you go to school with in Virginia? I mean, how bad could it have been the day after you lost to the Cowboys? You're in a classroom full of Commanders fans. Like, I went to school on Monday, and there were more Clemson fans in my class than Carolina fans. And they all knew I was a Carolina fan, and they let me hear it. Like, I will never hate a team the way that I hate them, and I will never enjoy beating anyone the way that I enjoy beating them. But that's what it is.
Well said, man. I agree completely. I remember arguing with my buddies preseason. This was probably, damn it, I don't want to mess up the year, but it had to have been like '08. I was launching the Tommy Beecher Heisman campaign before the season started. All my Clemson buddies were, Will Proctor is the man, and like, we're gonna beat the shit out of y'all. And I was on the Tommy Beecher Heisman train, and I had to watch old Tommy go out and throw 4 picks in the first half against NC State and get benched and never see the field again. But I was fighting for about 2 weeks in August in gym class, before actual games were played. And that's just how it is. And they were arguing for, because Tommy Beecher, he was our starting quarterback. So I didn't have to believe he was good, or I didn't know if he was good or not, but I was saying that he was going to win the fucking Heisman before the season started, because I was trying to rep my boy against their team, and that's just how it was. And then you had to, growing up, I mean, I think games that you start to remember, I mean, obviously the 90s, we were alive and attended some of those games, but it's hard to remember those. You get into, so I mean, one of my favorite memories was when we in '06, when me and Dad went to the game at Clemson. It was Jad Dean wide left, and it was Spurrier's first win against Clemson, and it came off, the 2005 game in Willie B. Was a tough one. It was low scoring, like 13-9, and it was just
05 was Charlie Whitehurst last year, right?
no. 63-17 was his walk off.
No,
2003.
no. There's no way. I thought that Charlie Whitehurst's final game, they clinched it because he was able to scramble for a first down on third.
I do remember that. I do remember that. Yeah,
I'm right about that, right?
Yeah, I think
because
you are.
I hated Charlie Whitehurst, and Spence had a fucking Charlie Whitehurst poster in his room.
He went 4-0 against us.
And he went 4-0 against us. We never beat him, and I was just I can remember just being sick to my stomach because he clinched the game for them. Like, we needed a stop. Yeah. It was 3rd and long, and he got the first down with his legs.
Yep, I remember that. Yep, 13-9.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2007, back at Willie B, was when, Addison Williams. I mean, we were winning, and our corner got hurt, and we put in a freshman. His name was Addison Williams, and they just ran about 4 slants to Aaron Kelly and drove right down the field. And just Aaron Kelly was like 6'5". Addison Williams was like 5'9", and they just hit him.
You would think by the 2nd or 3rd slant they would give him some help, though. I mean, come on.
I mean, it was just, it was brutal. It was brutal, bro. And then, 08 was, there's just so many, like, good memories, bad memories. Like, 08 was Sweeney, like, Dabo was the interim, and it was rainy. And
do you have a favorite game? I know that you've been to every game since 1950, but do you have a favorite win during the streak?
Damn. That's a good. Do
you want to hear my answer?
Yeah.
Mine, and it's not even close, is 2012 for a couple different reasons. You have the DJ Swearinger hit. You have the DJ Swearinger pregame intercepting the warm-up pass from Taj and spiking it. You have the Clowney sack record in Death Valley. But I think the most satisfying part of that win is we beat them with a backup quarterback in Dylan Thompson.
Yeah,
he was a great backup. Like, Dylan wasn't a normal backup, but it was still, we're coming into Clemson. We have a backup quarterback, and really, Mike Davis was the backup running back because that sadly was, Marcus Lattimore started the year as the starter, and that was, after his 2nd knee injury. But I think that Clemson fans, because of the situation, were really expecting to win that game more so than they had in a couple years. And then when we still found a way to beat them, that was just like, I think that was peak them being demoralized in losing to us was 2012. Like, I can just because we were there, and I can remember us leaving the stadium after the win, and they couldn't even. Usually, even when you lose, like you'll still have some drunk fans like chirp you or just like, but they were just so sad, and I just loved it. I just loved that.
Yeah, that game was awesome. I mean, God, I mean, even like 2009 was great because it was in Willie B. They were ranked, we weren't. Like CJ Spiller housed the opening kickoff. Like it was like, oh fuck, here we go again. Like we're about to lose, and then like,
but also too to that return was made so much more annoying.
But then because they
there was a phantom offside call. Remember that was a re-kick.
Yeah, the re-kick, and then
I'm sure we kick off. It's a touchback, and then like the offense and defense were almost on the field, and a flag comes out. You know, we're offside. We have to re-kick it, and then he houses it, and I was like, here we fucking go again. You know, Clemson, Carolina. You know, it's already going their way. Like I'm gonna but yeah,
no, I love that game too. Just and then like because Alshon and Stephon Gilmore were freshmen, and like Spurrier ran the Wildcat with Gilmore. He threw it to Alshon. Like that was an awesome game. I mean, those games too. Just when they happened, like 2009 through 2013 was my sophomore year of high school through sophomore year of college, and it was your junior and your junior to junior. So just like when it was happening, was awesome, especially because we were going into school, and then our first half of school was we were kicking ass, and then it all kind of fell apart. But yeah, there's a lot of pain, but a lot of fun games too. I mean, even like the 2001, I know we were really young, but like that one was a home game, like, and we were good that year. We ended up beating Ohio State in the Outback Bowl, like Corey Jenkins. We won it in a tight game. Like we weren't at that point, like in our lives in 2001, we weren't really like we had lost probably. We lost in 2000. We lost in 99. We lost in 98. Pretty sure we lost in 97. Like,
the 90s were tough. 90s were tough. I think our only wins in the 90s,
98, 99, and 2000. So we were on a 4-game losing streak. I mean, 96, I was 3 years old. So I don't really remember that. Like that was my first memory of beating Clemson was 2001.
Yeah.
And when we won that game, and then and that was the year after the push off too. So it was like extra.
Don't you mean the catch too?
Yeah, no, the push.
When I saw that in their stadium, like that is one thing that just makes me irate. That they are so obnoxious that they can't just take the cheap penalty, like no call, and be like, all right, yeah, we got away with one. They fucking memorialize it, and it's a huge picture of a clear push off in the stadium labeled as the catch too.
Yeah, that shit was, like I said, I was at Miss Mary Helen's watching that one. Then I made it a mission not to make. It's gonna be. I'll be there. Obviously, breaking news. You're gonna be there.
I will be in the zone. It is the first game that I have attended home or away in person in 2 seasons after not missing a home game for most of my life. So I'm very excited to be able to be a part of this one, and we better get a win.
Bringing some good juju to the stadium.
We're going on hour and a half at this point. Should we hop into the DB Blitz?
Yeah. Let's get to it. Pull those picks up. Let's see what we got here. Rivalry week. Here are my picks. I took Miami -6.5. They are playing for everything on Saturday. They're playing at Pitt. Pitt is a team that they just came off a win against Georgia Tech. I had Georgia Tech last week, and that was a pretty, just abysmal start by Georgia Tech. And they tried to rally, and every time they rallied, Pitt kind of found an answer. But I just think this is a spot for Miami where they have everything on the line. They have the talent. They have the the experienced quarterback. Say whatever you want about Carson Beck, but they need to go win this game, and they need to win it big. Notre Dame beat the shit out of Pitt just 2 weeks ago. Same week as when we played A&M, and so that's a data point. That's a common opponent that Miami is going to have when, and ultimately it might not come down to them comparing resumes of Miami and Notre Dame, but if you're Miami, you got to win this game. You got to win it big. I just think they have more talent than Pitt. That freshman quarterback from Pitt is pretty good, and he made some. I hadn't really watched him up until I watched that Georgia Tech game, and he can make some plays. But O-line, D-line, Miami, they got the stud freshman playmaker, and I'll take the whatever 8th-year senior, whatever Carson Beck is. I'll take Indeed.com over the diaper dandy from Pitt. So I'm taking Miami there. Oklahoma -10. After betting LSU in the second half, when they were only winning 7-3 against Western Kentucky, I bet them in the second half because I'm thinking, holy shit, they gotta figure this out, right? Like, no, this team absolutely sucks. Garrett Nussmeier has been benched since the Bama game. Michael Van Buren sucks. Like, this team is atrocious. The fact we lost this team, just looking back on this season when we do reflect, is going to be very frustrating because there's really 4 games that I'm just sick to my stomach that we lost. And LSU sucks, and I would have thought that Frank Wilson, he had the locker room like Brian Kelly, I thought that would inject, some energy into the locker room and he would have them playing with at least some more passion, but no, they look awful. Oklahoma's got everything to play for, win, and they're in the playoff probably. Oklahoma's at home. Their defense is phenomenal. Like, I don't think LSU is going to score more than 10 points. Like, they might be lucky to kick a couple field goals. Missouri only scored 6 on Oklahoma last week. I think it's going to be a similar game. Oklahoma could score, in the 20s and cover this number. Arkansas +2.5. Our boy Bobby. He sent out the letter. He sent out the letter to all the Arkansas fans on Twitter earlier today. Whatever happens. Like, so thankful to get a second. I think he's going to go out with a dub. And again, I'm fading. This isn't a big game, so Drink might actually get the boys. They might actually be competitive in this game since Arkansas is not a ranked team. They're a 2-9 team, so that's typically who Missouri plays well against. But I'm just going to take. Arkansas. They've been in every game. It feels like. Like I said, they have a freaking, maybe not after the Texas game, but they had a positive point differential going into the Texas game at 2-8. Like, they're right there. They've competed with everyone they've played against, and they just haven't been able to get over the hump. I think they do. I believe this game's in Arkansas, so just one for Bobby to go out on, and he can start house hunting on Lake Murray in Columbia. But Arkansas +2.5. Georgia -13.5. This is a this is a hammer. After watching Georgia Tech, I mean, I thought, going into last week, I actually was like, wait, why is Georgia Tech 250 to 1 to win the national championship? Like, I'm going to take a flyer on them. Like, Haynes King, he's a beast. I watched that game against Pitt, biggest spot for that team to perform, and they were at home. Pitt's up on them 21-0 before the first quarter ends. Like, I think Georgia's going to beat the shit out of Georgia Tech. Like, and I know it was, the game last year was awesome, like 8 overtimes, and I don't think Georgia's going to let that happen. This game's in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz. There's going to be more red in there than white and gold. Yeah, I really, really actually love Georgia in this spot. Again, they won't put the hammer down on Charlotte and cover against Charlotte, but I think they will handle their business against Georgia Tech, and they're sitting real pretty because they're likely to have the SEC have championship week off, and they're either going to get a bye or Texas Tech might pass them. But they're either going to have the 4 seed or the 5 seed. So they're either getting the weakest playoff team at home, or they're having a bye. So Georgia's in great shape to for the playoff, unfortunately. And then the last one, Gamecocks -2.5. This is a hammer time, max bet, whatever you want to call it. This is go mode, and I'm gonna cook up a little same game parlay too, and let that ride out. But we'll be looking at some Lenoris props, some Cade unders, and maybe a few touchdown scores here or there. But yeah, Gamecocks -2.5, play of the week, play of the year. Get you a steak dinner with these winnings. This is going to be easy money. I'll have some coin for touchdowns, and I'll arrive about 3:30, 4 o'clock after the game.
All right, I'm on Ohio State -10. I think Ryan Day gets the monkey off his back. In fact, I think he's going to run up the score because of all of the pain and hardship that he's been through with this game. I just don't think Michigan is that good this year. I know that they've only lost a couple games, but they've kind of had an easy Big Ten schedule. And I think Ohio State's really, really good. So I think they cover 10. Texas A&M -2.5. I just think they're better than Texas, and I think they kind of get the monkey off their back in that game as well. And then 3 unders. Excuse me. I have OU -10 as well, which is not good. If you're tailing either of us, I wouldn't tail that pick.
It doesn't matter. LSU sucks.
Beck and I have yet to hit on the same side of the same game. Hopefully we break that streak this week. But if you're going to avoid one, I would avoid OU. I took the under in the Georgia Tech Georgia game. I think that because of how the Pitt game went, if Georgia Tech has a chance in this game, it's going to have to be by possessing the ball on offense and taking the air out of it and just grinding it. So I just think that's going to limit the possessions, and Georgia could still win and still cover, but I don't see them hitting 60 points in that game. And then same thing with the Egg Bowl. 63, it's not impossible for those offenses, but I do think in a rivalry game it might get ugly, it might get chippy, and if you get off pace even for a quarter with a number that high, it's not going to hit. So I'm going under in both those rivalry games, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if I can keep the lead.
Sneaking in there. Just and as always, the DB by Hughley Insurance. Go to HughelyInsurance.com for any of your home and auto insurance needs. Hughley Insurance, bet on them. That's going to be a wrap on this episode. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe on Spotify and not Instagram. Subscribe on TikTok.
TV's box.
So yeah, you'll see our content on all these platforms. Please subscribe, interact. Again, we love the interactions. The fan questions really stopped, after the pain and suffering just got too much, I guess. But we appreciate everyone who listens, likes, subscribes. We love doing this. This has been fun. It's rivalry week, which also means that, it is the end of the season. We are going to keep these episodes going. We're going to talk recruiting. We're going to talk other landscape in college football as the playoffs. As we get into the playoffs, we'll talk college basketball, Gamecock college basketball, as well as college basketball around the country. And we're just going to keep this going. It'll always center around Gamecock athletics, but with that, we will always be talking about the greater college, football, basketball, baseball as a whole. So it's going to continue to be fun. So hopefully y'all continue to listen. But that's going to be a wrap on this episode, and we will see you Sunday, hopefully with a victory montage for the Gamecocks. So that's a wrap. As always, go Cox.
Go Cox.